2, 1. Go. We live. Alright, so go ahead to share the link, and I would just let people know we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. For those who are on, put their phones on mute. Okay. Just let me see who's on. Nobody yet. So share the link there. Some more you got people that you want to share to with? Or you? We can share for you then. I'm just gonna go share it to some pages and some groups. Hey, we got some people.
There's one person that you want. That's how you
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to DeBrief. We're just sharing the links. If you can as well, share the link to the page so we can get people watching us. We're discussing banking in Barbados today with Shamoa and your truly the moderators, Damani Small, myself, Kimar Shafri, next to me, Jermaine Beckford. He's not normally next to me though. But then we have Kimar Stewart as well. Yeah, Jeremy, you're not normally.
Everyone.
We have some more. Sorry.
You want me to switch seats?
You're not normally next to me, so I know you should move probably.
No problem.
Because keyboard is my senior partner. But again, we're discussing banking in Barbados. We want you to give us your feedback, your inputs, what you think, what you want to say. As well, join in the conversation as we discuss banking in Barbados, because we recognize that there have been some issues with the banking sector. So we discussed a number of things today, and we really want you to engage us and to let us know what your thoughts are, and feel free to share. Welcome, Frank. Good to have you here. We see Damien Sands as well, so Senator Damien Sands rather. So we're going to have a fruitful discussion. I just want to promote the fact that there is the Cancer Walk coming up tomorrow, and that's going to be at the taking part in Warrens. And I'm dressed in my pink. You actually know I've never worn pink in my life, but it's a real man, real pink. So today will be a real man. I don't know about tomorrow, but
I got your pink shirt for tomorrow.
Maybe got my clothes be.
You ready for tomorrow already?
I'm ready for tomorrow, but we promoted the fact that the walk is tomorrow, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We really want persons to really go tomorrow support. Get your shirts. I think you can go to Sheraton Center up to 8 o'clock. You have Cherish in Bridgetown. You have a number of places that you can go and get your shirts and your hat to look good for tomorrow. And I think it starts about 3 o'clock, but you could go early to make sure you get yourself in position. And it's a 5K walk, and in support of the Cancer Society, and I really want persons to go to support. That's why we're in my colors today, to really show that we are going to be there. We are going to be supporting. A number of us from the board is a number of us from the panel is going to be there as well. We really want your support. So Barbados, please go and support the Cancer Society. Again, Cherish is selling the shirts. Sheraton Center is just around the corner from the food court. Is also selling shirts and hats. They said they have all sizes, male and female. So you could think someone is Waza Goo from the UK is watching us and say the banking in Barbados is a criminal. Thanks for starting us off.
I will not endorse that.
We have a please, you could direct all your questions to Jermaine as well. He was a former banker.
I am a current banker, not a former banker.
Well, a former banker with a bank, but current banker with another bank. All right. So you can feel free to discuss today what it is about the banking. We also have Shamoa here. Shamoa would be wrong for saying you're an avid caller of some shows in Barbados.
Yes,
he's an avid caller of some shows in Barbados, and he's should be a pretty well-known voice on the radio. And we are having now. If you have any technical difficulties seeing us, let us know. But we will be having a really interesting discussion today with Samoa and the DeBrief hosting team here. And as I said, like us, share us on the page, please. So, gentlemen, let's get into the conversation. We're discussing banking in Barbados, so we're going to touch on banking, finance, and a number of stuff. Who want to get us rolling?
I'll do so.
All right.
You go, Kimar.
Yes. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the show. First, banking in Barbados. As you know, we have a small few and banks in terms of commercial banks, and those banks will be the Republic Bank Barbados, CIBC First Caribbean, Scotiabank, RBC, First Citizens. So my bank traditionally is First Caribbean. I did my banking there. My experience with First Caribbean, I mean, good, sometimes not so good. As it relates to Scotiabank, I know Scotia is having some issues right now in terms of closing branches in Barbados, and I know they're on the auction block in terms of selling throughout the Caribbean and what's not. So I predict a future flight for Scotia from Barbados.
No, it's the first Caribbean was supposed to leave too.
Well, for banking industry that made over $1 billion over the last 10 years in this so-called lost decade, I ensure that banks essentially want to leave Barbados, but I think they would like a more favorable environment so that they can make more profits. So I know you would definitely have an opinion on banking profits in Barbados, so I'm sure you could expound on that opinion a bit.
Well,
Where's your boss?
greetings everyone. I'm glad to
Greetings.
be here and to be speaking on this particular subject. It is an important subject. We have 5 privately owned banks in Barbados. According to the last article written by Sanker Price, September 30th, 2018, Sunday, front page. The banks walked away with $1.18 billion, and they call it 10 lost years, and that the $1.18 billion is chicken feed.
That's profit.
Yeah. And that is a disrespect to all of us here in society because we generated that. The transactions, the businesses that go on in the country. Okay? But we don't have a bank. And we need money. If we had a national bank, in my view, based upon the purpose of a national bank, public bank, at least half or 3/4 of that money, $1.18 billion, would have gone back through our society, into our infrastructure, and to help people to a little bit more stable. This is my opinion.
Shimo, can I interject? Yes, please. Okay, so you said the banks made over the period of the last 10 years.
No, I said.
Not you, what you said. The official statistics. $1.18 billion, right?
Yeah.
Good. That is over a 10-year period. In total, each the banks on average year made over $118 million in profit, right?
Okay.
Good. So you got 5 commercial banks, right? Divide that by 5. How much money each bank made?
We're looking at 236 million or something so dollars between the 5 and after it was divided. This $1.18 billion.
No, but hold on. There's over a 10-year period.
Mhm.
You see, a lot of people get carried away with the statistic of hearing $1 billion, right? But let us be real. $1 billion divided by 10 is $100 million.
$20
Divided
million a
by
year.
5 is $20 million,
a year.
right? No. When you look at the figure of $20 million a year per bank, right? Obviously, there are some banks that made 10, there are some that made 50, right? But we have to look and see what is the level of their imprint or footprint in Barbados, right? Now, when you look at that figure, that is the profit figure. I want you to know to bring the figure for the amount of taxes that these banks paid in Barbados. I also want you to bring the figure for the amount of salaries that they paid in Barbados, for the amount of services that they actually had to use in Barbados. Because don't fool yourself, in order for a bank to open up, there is an operations cost.
Yes.
Right? So the average bank wants to open a branch, like say Republic Bank Barbados Limited, and that's the correct name, in Broad Street. If you want to open that bank, just to open the bank for the given day, there is a cost attached to it. You gotta pay for the air conditioning, you gotta pay for staff members to turn up, and there are some staff members that must be there for the bank to actually open. You have to pay for the cleaners. You got to pay for something as simple as the coffee. So there is a cost attached to everything. So when we look at the $1.18 billion that the banks have made, I want you to then look at the contribution that the banks have put back into Barbados. Look at the amount of people that the banks actually employ in Barbados. Look at the salaries that are paid to those people. Look at the amount of money the banks have lent out and the risks that the bank has taken to actually allow people to have mortgages so that people can build these nice, fancy, beautiful houses.
But Jermaine, just
cars.
What I can let you respond here, but what you're talking about, all of that, I think that what Samoa was talking about was a profit margin, and not necessarily, because we can't negate the fact that if you're operating in Barbados, you don't pay taxes or you don't pay tax staff.
I'm not disputing.
You don't dispute that, but you can't throw away the baby with the bathwater and say, oh, they do all that, so let them do what they want to the country or how they want the country. So
listen,
let me get
what have they done to the country?
let me get reprieve and take from there, and then we go from there. Go ahead,
what's his name again? Jermaine.
Yes.
Apologies. Jermaine, what you're speaking about is something that has to happen in any business that you're running. There's cost for operations. I'm not looking at that.
Okay.
I'm looking at the fact that we simply do not have a bank to capture any of these profits. That's what I'm saying. And those profits are going into 5 pockets, while we had to go and borrow millions and allowing billions to walk. To me, that doesn't make any sense.
You know, it's very interesting. When we often talk about having a commercial bank of our own, right? When
We had one.
we had
Let's
one,
remember that.
right? We had one.
So this
But-
is not impossible.
I know it's not impossible,
Okay, cool.
but I want you to remember that it was the present government, this present administration, that when they were previously in power, that saw the need to sell that commercial bank, or should I say,
You can't say this current administration. That will be
same party, same political.
You can't.
It was made up by the same.
But no,
some state members were in the cabinet.
Yes, but you
They
can't say
made
the
the
current.
decision
But
together.
Jermaine, you can't say the current administration. For those who are listening, you may be misleading the people.
Germany will be politically
Incorrect. You're correct in the sense that it is the Barbados Labour, under the Barbados Labour Party, but not this administration. So you got
Under a Barbados Labour Party government,
Correct.
which contained up to 10 members of this present
But
government,
it's not this current government. That's all.
a decision was made led by former Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Owen Seymour Arthur, and at the given time, the now Prime Minister, I believe she was the Attorney General at the time, by the time the bank was, and to be fair, the bank was divested. The bank, all the shares weren't sold at the same time.
Correct.
And Barbadians were given the opportunity to buy some. The former government, which is the former Democratic Party government, I remember they vociferously campaigned against Barbadians buying any shares in the bank. Right?
I'm hearing Ian Boyne saying, no, it was Owen Arthur sold, probably who sold the bank.
Owen did not sell the bank.
But who initiated?
Well, who initiated it? Was he the Prime Minister?
No, hold on. Owen was the Prime Minister of Barbados, and you just spoke to me about politics, right? And I didn't ask my friend Kimar here to assist me because I know he's very politically astute, right?
I know you're not one that usually need assistance.
No, but I call on the assistance of my colleagues this evening, right? Not colleague in Democratic Party. Let me let you know up front. Now, Owen Arthur was the Prime Minister of Barbados. You just spoke about politics. As we know, Prime Minister in the cabinet is primus inter pares. First amongst equals.
I mean, Marley was the AGM at the time.
Oh my Lord. Good afternoon, good evening, brother. How are you?
Welcome, Mr. Pizza.
Right? Now, Owen was the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister is primus inter pares. Any decision that is made by the cabinet, you're bounded by cabinet responsibility. So, let us be frank and fair when we say that members of this government, and I will speak on banking because I am a professional banker, and I do not, whilst people like to say that the banks do this and the banks do that, I don't subscribe to that foolishness because I
do this or do that. What do you mean?
Before you go any further, right? No, you say something about collective responsibility and what's not right. I watched a debate in the House of Parliament where after got up and said he was against the prisoner contract.
Oh Lord.
But he was bounded by collective responsibility, and therefore he cannot then go and overthrow a decision of cabinet to be able to award the contract to the company called Vico.
He cannot operate unilaterally. That's what he cannot
Right.
operate now, okay.
So, if cabinet of itself decided that the bank had to go, somebody who sets the mandate for cabinet had to put it there in the first place. Now, as Minister of Finance, the responsibility of banks is under the Minister of Finance portfolio.
At least at that time.
And who was Minister of Finance for 14 years at that time? The Prime Minister. So any attempt to try to exclude him from being the person that we not I won't say blame, but we put the sole responsibility on for the sale of that bank, it is him. Because he said in public that he as Prime Minister did not believe that he should be sitting there having to deal with things like what we call the micromanagement of a bank and all of that paperwork as it relates to loans and what's not. So he decided to sell it. He put the offer to local institutions, they refused, and therefore he went to Trinidad to get the buy for it.
So
he did not go to Trinidad. Trinidad company. Sorry.
Trinidad shares in it. Trinidad was one of the majority holder.
No, I can speak on that.
Kimar, was this the kind of assistance that Jermaine wanted?
Hold on a second. So based upon what you said, Kimar, Stuart, based upon what you said,
well, later you call his Stuart.
based on what you just said, so is it just that he just got fed up of having to deal with the paperwork of the bank, and so we could just divest it to foreign families? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I don't think so. I think Jermaine can add more to, like, in terms of
why was the bank sold?
Right. Go ahead, Jermaine.
Let me bring some context to it.
He was in meeting?
No, I wasn't in meeting, but I think we need to be fair.
What was the report given?
Alright, let me give us why was the bank sold, Jermaine?
Why was the bank sold?
Yes.
No, look. At the time, the bank was doing good. I will say this. The bank was making a profit.
It was.
From which period of time?
The bank was making
from which period of time?
Well, the bank was started in 1975.
Yes.
Right? And if you know the history of the bank, you know the bank was separated into three entities which came together to form one bank. Right? So the bank was making a profit. At some point it would have had a little tussle.
Okay,
but more or less it was making a profit.
Profitable bank.
Right? However,
yes,
the bank was not at its maximum output.
Okay.
And it was not doing as good as it could.
Why?
Because it is at that time in Barbados, and I will not knock any government for selling a national commercial bank. The government recognized that whilst we had a lot of assets, because you had the Barbados National Bank, you had the Barbados Light and Power, but the Democratic Party wanted to sell the Barbados National Oil Company because they recognized that realistically governments should not be in the business of maintaining assets. Right?
I don't understand why we like to make that statement.
But it is the truth.
Hold on.
It is the truth.
When we ex men and women into office, the statement is this: the government has to take such and such to Parliament. When this government goes to Parliament, who is this government? Is it the representatives that we ex into power?
The government.
So that means it is us that going to Parliament.
Our representatives.
So, but they are our power of attorney.
I agree. But
wait a minute. So we have to be in the business of what? What did you just say?
We are in the beginning. We should not be in the business of upholding assets.
Right. what's that all about? Who is going to look after the orphan, the disenfranchised, the poor, the needy? Who's going to look after that? If you have a whole nation that is strictly privatization,
Yeah.
everything is going to cost money.
I'm
There's
not-
going to be no charity, nothing. No private bank is not going to take out their money and the profits and build no roads for you. We have to have assets to feed our society, to feed our infrastructure.
Before you give your rebuttal,
Mm-hmm.
the people say good evening, and then it says it's saying the LP, the Democratic Labour Party was against the sale of the National Bank.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Ian Boyce Erskine and Sol Haywood. So you need to look. Okay.
All right.
Sean Water says, I'm asking, did the former PM made the decision on his own to sell the bank? Yes or no?
Let me respond to these questions, right? Now, I'm going to respond to the most recent ones. Vernon said that the Democratic Party was against the sale of the bank. Yes, they were. At that time, when the Democratic Party got into power, they sold the rest of the shares. So I don't know if it was a matter of saying one thing to get into power, and when you get into power, you realize the reality and you do something else. You said about the social things in Barbados, right? I will let the money respond to that, because the money will say to you that governments collect taxation and they distribute the taxes towards various projects that they have pending. With regards to how good the bank was doing and if Mr. Arthur was interested in doing the paperwork, he could not be interested in doing the paperwork because the bank was being run by a board. The last time I checked, a board reports to the minister, right?
I'm just remember the comment that was.
Oh, no, I understand. And I am going to give way part of the response to Kimar because he's our resident economist, and he will tell you about the business of governments owning assets and the pros and the cons of it.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, well, you got to be specific. You want me to relate it to the government owning a bank per se?
No, just
asset is a broad term.
Yeah. Well, let it because we're speaking about banking this evening. Bring into context the benefits of a government owning a state bank versus the cons. Yeah.
Well, in
Don't speak about the government as if it's like 12 people sitting down in an office now. The government is the nation of itself, the people.
No, the government is the 30 members of parliament.
No. They are our power of attorney, but we will get to that at another day.
Alright, let Kimar speak.
We will get to that another day.
right, in regards to the government owning the bank, my position is that I don't necessarily believe that the government has to own 100% of the shares,
Fair enough.
but they should maintain I used to say a majority controlling
1%.
interest, because the majority shareholders usually sets the mandates and sets the outlook for the banking institution. Now, if a government is in control of it, most likely the policies of the bank will be more socially oriented, based on societal development, and they will be more humane as it relates to certain features. So, where the government could leave off, but say like some fees or what's not, because the fees will seem to be a little bit unconscionable to poor people, they would. But on a private sector initiative, they will put it on because the main motivation is profit. Period. Right? In that regard, though, a government will obviously have to spend or invest or constantly be investing in the bank to keep it afloat. Right? So we have high labor costs in Barbados, regardless of how we look at it, and there's certain fixed costs that are attached to owning assets in that regard, which has to be facilitated by taxes.
When you say the government will have to invest into this thing, that is not the bank paying for itself. But is it not going to pay? It has an account. Is it not going to pay for itself? It's supposed to generate money.
But wait. Although you
If you
own it,
understand the question.
although you own an asset, right? Monies may not be necessarily available at all times that you need to do it from the self-financing aspect.
But the
you
objective
as
is
the
to have
entrepreneur, as the entrepreneur may still have to invest outside funding into that asset as well, which is the same thing with government. Now, due to all the money.
But that's not a normal circumstance. That's if something transpires. Because normally the business is supposed to
not
work for
necessarily,
itself.
but not necessarily, because look at it.
If your business is doing great and the profits and so on that it is making is doing its job, why would you have to bring in money from the outside? Unless you want to make it bigger.
For expansion.
Or reinvest, or invest more for more shares.
Right.
But you reinvest in the company because
Are you
have-
speaking about it along those lines?
well, no, but that's a good train of thought to go
Go ahead.
on. But if you look at it, you start to make profits in the bank, right, from the government perspective, then it comes the issue of the shareholder agreements and who's benefiting in that regard. So if it is that the benefits from the shares is not going back to what we call it the consolidated fund in government, where the majority of the citizens are benefiting from that, then obviously the bank would tend to toil along that way, and reinvestment will be limited in that sense, right? And then the issues of corruption, and then the issue of government influence, where ministers are calling and dictating.
But you have a board, ministers can't call and dictate.
I keep hearing this thing all the time too.
It is a misnomer.
But I refuse to believe that, because corruption is alive and well in Barbados.
Everywhere
So
you work.
any board in Barbados is susceptible to corruption,
Agreed.
regardless of who running it. And don't tell me that there's no evidence to suggest that. So if ministerial influence is applicable to the situation, then they could determine where these millions of dollars are invested in the economy, right? And then they will also determine who or how the policy is shaped. So if the bank if the bank refuses to invest in the local sectors, right, but they're more focused on car loans and these type of things that are not really developing the people, just like some of the banks are doing right now, then it becomes a useless asset, and then it becomes a useless asset because they're really servicing the purpose, because they're developing or is not socially oriented in its policy. Then if you sell it in that regard, that's okay with me.
But
if
did
you have a
the
bank,
But
let me have this problem. I
interject.
say I want to get to the meat of the BNB. Did the BNB have this problem?
Let me interject.
That you are
a minute.
mentioning.
Let me interject a minute. The first thing you have to recognize is that when you talk about commercial banks in Barbados, all commercial banks in Barbados are regulated by the Central Bank of Barbados, right? And believe it or not, the Central Bank of Barbados is not privy to any undue influence. That is the honest truth.
It's not privy to what?
Undue influence. I will say that.
What do you mean by that?
It has a board.
It has a board, and the individuals who sit on that board, trust me when I tell you, they are independent, and they will make decisions which are within the best interest
But
of that institution.
that will be the hope.
No, I can tell you that. And
So you're saying then that our last central bank government, the Lao world, made decisions within the best interest of the country? I personally think not, and a lot of people think not. Not only that, they think not, but he fired from the job?
Yes, he was.
But you see,
Okay, good. But you saying who?
But he was the governing central bank. He was not the whole board.
Yeah, but he was the
He
government.
was
part of the board.
From what I hear, he was acting that he was the whole board.
No, he was not the whole board.
No, I said from what you're
Right.
hearing, he was acting.
I understand.
There's a question here from Umar.
The question I have for you guys is, one, what can be done to ease the lower class people in this country, which has no other choice but to use these commercial banks? Two, why the government hasn't looked at reopening another bank?
Okay.
That should more answer that one.
The see, thing is with the whole banking system is that a lot of people complain around because their money in the bank using our money to loan the people that want the same car loans and mortgages, and the banks reaping all the profits, and then it's going to us that has the money they're lending to persons.
You don't realize that some of the commercial banks this year are declaring a loss, right?
But that happened to me.
You take
okay, right, for example, well, Jermaine Bedford lent the money small $100,000 of his money to develop my business and reap profits, and then only give back Jermaine Bedford $100,000. Will you do that? You know,
Have you made a
You
good
get back
proposal?
on
Probably.
Jermaine look at me with the bullshit. You won't do that. Good. So therefore, one of the issues that we have right now is that the Democrat Labor Party allowed the banks to set the interest rate because they have an ulterior motive.
What?
What are you talking about?
I
You
disagree.
think?
Hey, what are you talking
So
about?
hold on.
Because hold on, the money.
So maybe
the money
stop.
before you go, hold on, the money. Let me correct you before you go any further. The
Bonds. The bonds.
Hold on,
Bonds.
Party.
hold on.
If it is that the bank ain't give me a cent for what I got there, sorry. And it is known that the central bank no want bonds. I gave them an percentage. It was 4 or 5.
5.7%.
Good. I ain't getting nothing for the bank. 0.1 whatever, which is 0. But now the bonds now that I get is 5%. Well, they not. It makes sense. It makes sense as an investor to take my money and invest it in those bonds.
Before you go
It's unfortunate
hold on.
that the current government don't come in and realize that we could really honor this 5%.
The money.
Therefore,
That was a trick system.
Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me defend. Hold on. Let me defend something here.
Defend what? The bonds?
No, I'm not defending the bonds. Just
Because
hear
that
what I'm
was
saying,
the
because
waste of time.
I think they're speaking without knowledge of all the facts, right?
But bringing knowledge in the
Hold
facts,
on.
man.
The Central Bank of Barbados, rather it is under a Barbados Labour Party government or under a Democratic Labour Party government or whichever party decides to come forward in the future, sets the minimum savings rate in Barbados. Now, it is true that the minimum savings rate right now is 0% or 0 point something. So it's
Zero.
It's technically 0. So putting it at 0, the banks themselves have the option that they can compete amongst one another and decide to say, you know what, I am going to give Jamani 1% on his money when he comes, and that bank say, you know what, I can beat you on that, and I can give you 2%.
That 1% no man,
Right?
you see when they're taking off, about 10% and accumulate.
Hold on, but
Jermaine,
hold on, Jamani.
the question on that.
I write
On a loan,
Uh-huh.
you're a banker.
Yeah.
How much average does a bank make on a mortgage, percentage wise?
let's say $100,000.
Right now, the variable rate in Barbados is around 5%. Alright? There are a lot of banks which are offering 3.8, 3.4, 4%.
But that goes up.
Right?
That goes up.
No. It actually.
Jermaine, hold on, Jermaine, now I want to be real with this thing, you know.
But you're.
Because people that get a mortgage for $100,000. How much you feel the policeman already is? Don't tell me it's 10 grand on nice
If you get a
Jermaine.
mortgage for $100,000
But you
and
don't
you
have
over 30
20%.
years,
How much you pay
right?
back?
Realistically, you pay about between $130,000 to $150,000 in total.
Good.
Right,
But that's over 30 year period.
So because the interest rate on that goes
It's on a
up,
reducing balance.
It's on a reducing balance.
So,
but also it goes up.
even at $150,000 you pay back.
Over 30 years.
Is it
years.
is it
Yeah, about 30 years.
Is it
or
50?
15 years.
15 years.
Yeah, we do the math.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got math just like you. Is it $50,000 half, which is 50% of $100,000?
But that is less than, that is only about $1,500 you're making a profit off of that loan.
But at any day, Jermaine, I lend you $100 grand, and you give back 150. How much profit I make off for it?
Over
50%.
30 years.
How much profit I make off for it?
Over
How
30
much profit
years.
I make from it?
I think you see what y'all people are missing the point, you know. But let me get back to my train of talk.
Go ahead.
Right? Let me get back to my train of talk. You really threw me off. Right?
Well, yeah.
Commercial.
Yeah, excuse me.
No,
Sorry.
I think the laptop cut out. Alright, anyway, yeah. Go ahead, Bill.
Let me get back to my train of thought. A commercial bank, commercial banks, as I was saying, had the opportunity that they can compete. They could compete amongst one another, right? So they could give you 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever amount they decided they wanted to give you, right? Now we have to understand that banks are lending people, depositors, money. The current problem that we're facing in Barbados is that the banks in Barbados are so flush with cash, right? That they really have no real investments in Barbados to put it into, right? So that's why you would hear that the banks got $6 billion or $7 billion in cash, right? What we also have to recognize,
My problem is that we don't have none of that.
we don't.
The country, the state, the people, we don't have none of that money that you're talking
I disagree with you there. Me tell you why.
Do we have a bank?
No, listen to me. Hear me.
Do we have a bank?
No, just hear me for a sec. Hear me for a sec. When you know just how I said that there's a minimum savings rate, that the banks can give you a minimum of 0% interest on your money when you put it on your bank. We also have to recognize that the Central Bank of Barbados also holds 20 or 30, I can't remember the exact figure, but the Central Bank of Barbados also holds 20 or 30% of that money in the central bank. So that is money that they technically have borrowed from the banks without interest and said the banks will pay you back at the
Who
end of
has
the day.
borrowed from the banks?
They said, but the government
Don't you get I don't know the word to call it, but you will off course right now.
how?
Right.
If you take the bank's money and you keep it in your bond and say,
Hold
oh, we'll give you back in 50 years.
hold on. No. Banks have tremendous power in an economy.
Yes, they do.
Okay. There are things called a minimum reserve requirement, which
Yeah.
requires commercial banks to store their money in the central bank
Yes, that's right.
to be able to protect depositors.
Mhm.
No, it's not that they're saying, oh, just giving you money and put it here. But we need to know that there's significant funds on the books to protect depositors, that if there's a bank and run the economy, that people will be able to get back their money.
Like I understand for it.
No, you said something earlier about bonds. There was a exchange about bonds. Misinformation there again. There's savings bonds and there's treasury bills. Those were two different things. No, I remember when the interest rates dropped and they said that the banks have the ability to charge or set their own interest rates.
Yes,
But
they
they
do.
dropped from approximately 2% and the banks came together and decided how they're going to set their interest rates. Now, in a case to get government bonds more desirable,
Yeah.
that was the policy tool that they came up with. Now, in the case where people are not lending to you, right? And you come up and you raise the interest on treasury bills. That is to make government paper look more attractive. That is legal. There's nothing wrong with that. Because if people are not buying or investing, the government still needs to run.
Yes.
It still needs money.
Short-term
But-
financing.
But good. So don't look at it from a vindictive point of view that, oh well, they're doing that to kill. It's not to kill anybody, but the central bank has a role to govern over commercial banks, and they put policy in place to be able to protect depositors. Now, when a commercial bank issues a loan, it's basically like thin air. Money comes out of thin air, and that's how they make their money, through loans.
Yeah.
In Barbados, there's not much room to put investments in, and banks are not risk takers.
But
That is why, hold on a second.
Hold
That
on.
is-
No, I got you, Shimona, but I just wanted to add in something to what Kimar just said. He was talking about the banks, the central bank, have the minimum reserve requirement so as to make to what he said?
Protect depositors.
To protect depositors. But there's actually something called the Barbados Deposit Insurance Corporation.
I know about that institution is there to finance upwards of $25,000 worth of customer protection. Now that's
Per
something
account.
per account. Now that's totally different from a minimum reserve requirement stored at the central bank. Now the Deposit Insurance Corporation, if you have, let me explain it from again. If you have $100,000 on a bank account in Barbados, if there's a bank run, the government guarantees for you to get back only $25,000
Per account.
per account.
And there's a bank what?
A run on the bank. So
Let's
if the
just
bank
say
declared
the
bankruptcy.
Yes, you can only get about $25,000 regardless of how much money you have on one particular account.
So you should spread your money all around the place.
Good.
That banker will want hunting though.
But this is the law. But this is
Like
the law
law,
Like,
of
you know,
our
you
bank.
know? You
No.
telling me that 100 grand they had only give out 25?
Yes.
That man
Yes.
won't care.
Yes. No.
Don't let out the money.
If you go and put it in a credit union, no. Credit unions are still required to store a good side of their monies on commercial banks, so it
Right.
still don't make no sense. Essentially, what I believe the solution to that problem is that there should be a credit union bank providing services to credit unions in Barbados.
Great credit. You've been calling for years.
Yes.
The question is,
So the
so
credit unions are the ones who are refusing to form their own bank.
now if that's the case,
No, the credit union were credit union were calling to actually make them give them the commercial bank.
So if it is
regulations.
that the credit unions are putting their money on the banks, how it is that the credit unions offering, because if the credit union money on the bank, therefore they get the same interest rate
Yeah.
as everybody, which is zero.
No, the credit unions can negotiate based on the amount of deposits that they have on the bank.
Oh, so therefore they get more interest rate than a normal citizen.
But you know, credit union rates are actually higher than commercial banking rates.
How so? Explain that one. No loss.
You talking about in terms of getting loans and that kind of thing? The rates are higher.
They are pretty much higher.
Because they're more short term. They pay
Not
back.
necessarily, no, it's same one time. And I will not call any specific credit union or any specific bank, but the variable interest rate in Barbados, remember I said, was 5% for mortgages.
Yeah.
Right? But most credit unions in Barbados doing mortgages at 5.5, some at 6.95, some at 6. Some would try to lock you in at 4.75, right? And if you look at the commercial
Or
banks,
some will try to sell you these low interest rate, but over the couple of years,
Well, after 2 years, they go up.
They go up
Right.
drastically.
Goes up to
Well,
a
look at the
goes up to a whole
commercial
high.
right, the commercial banks start you off. There's one commercial
Okay,
bank now
Nicholas.
starting at 3.4%. There are some that will tell you 4% variable.
And goes up to a whole high.
But the variable rate, it goes up the variable rate.
Well, how what is that, Jeremy?
I just called it out 5%.
So you're saying that every month, okay, you first started saying it's 5%.
Yeah, it's 5%.
Then it goes up after what, second year, third year, whatever.
But the variable, you understand the concept of variable rate?
Or go ahead, yeah, explain the others.
Right.
That,
Okay. So basically, variable rate is more or less a benchmark that banks would use to determine what amount of interest you're going to charge on a loan at this given time in the market. So, like right now, it is 5%. Years ago, the variable rate was 12%. The variable rate fluctuates, but because of the environment that we are operating in, I can tell you without a doubt that I don't think it will ever go past.
So the question is how it works. Is it 5% on the total loan or is it 5% on the remaining balance?
Well, all commercial banks now do loans on a reducing balance. So it is 5% on the remaining balance.
Okay.
Always on the reducing balance rather than
Yeah.
it's always on the reducing. What I want to touch on though, gentlemen, is the fact that over the last couple of months, we're back into this year, we've been seeing the banks have been drastically cutting the savings rate in terms of what they give you interest rate on your savings.
Yeah.
But they also with these high over the counter charges as well. Whereas a change checks now you gotta pay a bank $10. It's even harder now to use a ATM machine that is not of your bank.
Yeah. I'm one.
I mean more money.
I'm one that shut down my account at Republic Bank of Barbados.
Stop calling banks.
Because I'm speaking factual information. I'm one that shut down my account at the Republic Bank of Barbados because they were charging
That's
me
not the name of your bank, but you
whatever is Republic Bank. They were charging me $5 every month, and I text them. I put the account at $0. I draw off all the money, and they were still charging me $5 for account and telling me what is operating costs. What operating costs can you have on an account that have on $0 and nothing is going up in the account?
You have the account open.
What's the two reasons that you saying?
One reason is the debt restructuring that we had. It really hit banks.
Which is the bird?
hard.
The BERT program, it really hit banks
It
hard.
murdered the banks.
So they need to recoup those losses somehow. So charging the fees and the raising of prices is justifiable on their behalf. Okay, not
their behalf,
Not that you agree with it.
yes, but on their behalf,
It's
they have to
reality.
recoup. They have to recoup that money,
Mhm.
right?
In my
but before
conversation yesterday, my brass tacks, Dennis Johnson.
It was me you were speaking to, baby.
It was you?
Of course it was me.
Okay, good. Dennis Johnson, I want to apologize to Dennis Johnson because I cut him off and then he had to shut me down. So sorry for cutting you off, Dennis Johnson. But I started where Dennis Johnson left off, which is what we're talking about here now. He said the reason why the commercial banks cannot give any more is because they are not generating sufficient business to create this big set of profits to increase the handout
I agree.
or whatever.
Non-performing loans.
But
increases.
hold
I have
on.
got to be the government.
That is why I say all the more reason we need to have a bank.
But
Because
still-
hold on a second, I'm speaking about a national, and I'm speaking about a national commercial public bank. If there is not that much business going on, or the banks cannot generate that much business to increase their output to persons who have savings accounts, we have 5 banks that don't belong to us. There's not much business, but they are walking away with something. not us. Me personally, we have 5 banks
Yeah.
owned by 2 entities,
Yeah.
Canada and Trinidad.
I want to
Hold
respond
on a
on
second.
that.
They finish.
Hold on a second. I believe that we need to get rid of some of the banks.
But are they getting rid of themselves?
The Scotia Bank is supposed to be
First carrier was supposed to be
allegedly on the way out. I like how Gaston Brown, Prime Minister Gaston Brown, is handling that situation. Okay, I don't know how we're gonna handle it.
Awaza Go say I remove all my money from Republic Bank. Verla de Pisa is also saying made a case for credit unions and a credit union bank.
Yes.
I had a conversation.
Can I
No,
hear?
Yes.
No.
I don't. Wait, hold on. I don't.
Verla also mentioned banks were charging for over-the-counter transactions
Before work.
I
want to
wait,
reflect
wait,
that right
before you move on, because we still, I want to still keep the narrative about the fact that these over-the-counter transactional fees. I think some of the way too that the banks went about in dealing with the situation, because there were people that were being charged and were seeing these charges being taken off their accounts and did not know why.
Correct.
And I think it was abruptly done.
Yes, I was one of
it was
the
very disrespectful the way how it was done.
That's
in
why
my
we remove all the
opinion.
money off the Republic Bank.
Let me interject here. Right now, I will not sit down on this program and allow y'all to castigate commercial banks, and it is because I
But don't
used to
say
work.
and defend the banks foolishly
But
later.
Jermaine,
No, hold on.
We
I
are
used to
telling
work-
the truth about
Hold
the
on,
banks.
no, hold on.
About castigating
Hold on. I used to work for a commercial bank, right? And I understand the cost structure, right? Let me.
But okay, but
let me-
no, before you go on, you see that's the biggest problem we have with society today. People are German. Reason why you on the inside, you know. So you understand the cost structure, you understand the reason for cost heights and all that. But we on the outside don't know these things, and we just get the one paying because he might be getting
And you want to know what he is really cost structure? Because any day rich
Keep
is
me
cost
employed.
structure. Keep me employed. That money get in pocket too, because they're gonna pay you.
And this is where I have
Let-
an issue. That's
Let me respond. Let me respond because I will bring some level of defense to the commercial banks.
You have been bringing but nothing but the
Well, you defend them,
And
say
then
that.
before,
So let me go, let me
yeah,
go.
before you go on, we're just here with some more.
Shamoa.
Sorry, you could put it behind some more. The man is small in the corner there. Then there's myself, Kimar Safri, Kimar Store right next to me. German back first, so that we know where your penalty, your stores with the penalty hit. But also we're just promoting the fact that we do have the Cancel Walk tomorrow for 6 o'clock at the.
It's 6 o'clock.
Sorry, 3 o'clock at Warren's. We should be
I think it should be at 6 o'clock.
It should, right, so we just let you know that's why we're in pink. Remember, we're pink. Anyhow, back over to you, Jeremy.
Yes. Now, first let me respond to Verla. Verla said that we should be promoting the credit unions to have their own bank. The Democratic Labour Party was involved for 10 years and they made no effort to do such. So, Verla,
John.
I have to knock you there on that. Number 2.
But we should say though, because as I keep telling you, the Democratic Labour Party is not in power. So what you should say in the future,
We had 10 years.
But oh God, in the future,
Uh-huh.
going forward, a Democratic Labour Party under Mr. Pisa
Uh-huh.
should look at the fact of a bank for credit unions.
If it don't happen in this administration.
Yes, I'm not trying to carry it back. We are here almost 2 years after the fact, so I don't like the fact I'm back in the past.
I had a conversation with the gentleman who runs COB. I can't remember his name.
Steve Bell.
And I went specifically to speak to him about a bank.
Mm-hmm.
Says, why can't the credit unions come together, pool the resources, and establish a bank?
Yeah.
We need a bank to rake in some of this money that the 5 pockets are walking away with.
It's not that much money, it's not y'all can
I don't care. The point is we're not getting
Man
any of
wants
it.
somebody cooking.
That's my problem.
Uh-huh.
We are in need of cash. We leaking cash. Billions walking away, and then we're going and borrowing millions. That equation, you will get an X. Coming to university.
So even if you're saying, all right, hold on.
Let me finish. I will finish my
Let's go get some more.
What was his answer? You were saying that you were going to speak to him.
What was the answer?
What was the discussion?
He said that is something that they're looking into.
Right, I remember they
For me,
made it
that's
clear
a
about
brush-off
it.
conversation. For me, that's a brush-off conversation. This conversation could not have now started about credit unions, pooling resources, and having a bank. This conversation had to be around something.
Let me add some context to this, right? No. Let me go back to my point I was making. I mentioned that you have to look at the cost structure of the banks before you actually criticize
I
them.
do not want us to keep using those things as reasons to be pessimistic about having a national bank. There will be costs. We need to re-establish a national bank. It is a must. Listen, in the United States, you know about the North Dakota Bank.
Yeah.
Can you speak about the North Dakota Bank and how it functioned during this so-called collapse? Go ahead.
No, I'm not going to speak. What we be in Barbados.
Wait a minute. But we're talking about a public bank, the relevance of a public bank. You see, the people need to understand the difference between a national commercial public bank and a regular private bank like First Caribbean. Can you explain that? Because a lot of our people don't understand the value of having a state-owned bank, owned by us, the nation.
Shimon, hold on. You do recognize that regardless of if we have a national commercial bank, as you call it, or a regular private banking institution
owned by Barbadians, not foreign families walking away with all the money.
Regardless of who it's owned by,
Go ahead.
the banks have to operate that bank has to operate under the very same legislation that is in place today. Under the very same regulator.
But we need to have it. But we need to have it in order to operate under. That's all I'm saying. We simply don't have the bank.
If you have a commercial bank, if we had our own commercial bank now, right? No.
Which we did.
If we had our own commercial bank now, which we did, as you're making point, right?
Because I want people to understand that we had a national bank. This thing about correspondent banking, we had to have had correspondent banking.
But correspondent banking back then was different compared to what is now.
What's the difference? What's the difference?
On a problem that's not even a problem, but you're making it a problem.
Go ahead.
You are incorrect by saying that the same legislation will govern it. You are not totally incorrect, but the reason why we had issues with correspondent banking is because the banks that are here are subsidiaries of other countries.
International.
So the legislation is different for that type of institution. But if you had your own state-owned bank, the legislation will be different and it governs different. So the issues that we are having as it relates to correspondent banking is coming from the fact that we don't have our own, but we rely on people from the outside. So when fact
we don't have our own what?
Our bank. So when fact, this is the Financial Action Task Force, right?
Wait a minute, hold on a second. I
I
apologize. Hold on a second. We don't have our own.
Correct.
We had a national bank before.
But
wait.
Yes,
We had a national. Hold on a second.
Yes.
We had a national bank before. In order for that bank to function the way how it did we have correspondent banking?
Yes.
What is the problem now? Because Miss Morley, from the time she got in power, these two things that.
But Mr. Stewart was talking about it too.
Hold on a second.
Forget what he was talking about.
This is just for me.
Mm-hmm.
For me. Former Prime Minister, Mr. Stewart,
Yeah.
for me, was not vicious enough where that's concerned. Just for me. From the time Miss Morley, and I'm not favoring any party on that, I don't deal with that. I deal with policy.
Yeah.
From the time Miss Morley got into power, two things she addressed that I was very happy to hear about vigorously. Food imports and our banking issue.
How she addressed it?
And correspondent banking, she says, is our problem. She spoke about the bullying of big industrial nations towards small nations, island nations like us, especially with respect to this banking thing. Okay? We can open out a bank in the States, Canada, Germany, to help do our correspondent banking. We don't have to rely on a private bank over there.
Shimon, before you go any further,
Have the conversation.
Shimon,
Let's look at it
Shimon, before you go any further,
and find the proper solution to open up.
Just
Shimon,
let me
let
just
me-
touch on the fact that there is an article that was brought out by Barbados today on the 24th of September 2000, which spoke to what Ms. Morley had been saying in terms of the correspondent banking, and that Minister Ryan Strong was looking at creating a policy paper to incorporate some of the banking at the post offices and stuff like that. So there's regulations and policy papers as it relates to that is coming about. Just want to get in some of the questions as well. Miss Irene Garner is saying people save and borrow from credit union without paying users fee. Credit unions are not paying are not profit centers. She also said banks are established solely for profit. Two distinctly different entities. People speaking about credit union must research the principle of unionism. But there's also an article that came out in the Loop that says that a lot of people, this is a Loop the 30th of October 2018, that spoke to the fact that a lot of people were actually closing their accounts within the commercial banks and opening their accounts in these credit union for the fact that the credit union does not charge you service fees or anything. Whatever you have in your account is still able to get interest on your interest money, and anyone is free to join the credit union. Another good thing about the credit union is that we are also a charitable organization.
Umar Dyer also said, he said, gentlemen, all I'm hearing is how much these banks are walking away with when the ends. What can the poor person in this country do to get away from these crazy charges?
Fight to open up, reestablish a national bank. That's what we need.
I like what Irene said. I like what the article state. But as I keep saying, that is spinning top in mud because credit unions still have to place their money on commercial banks, and this is where we as a country need to stand up and say, well, as it relates to that issue, all credit unions will put their money on a Barbados National Bank.
Thank you.
But didn't the credit union make that plea that the fact that they were placing a lot of their money within the commercial bank, they wanted to establish their own bank?
Yes.
They made that plea years ago.
But there's movements afoot now to try to establish that.
So it's not so they're not going to establish a national bank, but rather they're going to try to remove some of the stipulations from them to free them up a little bit more to act similarly to the commercial banks.
No.
Isn't that what they were saying?
No.
Okay.
Hey, hold on. Any of y'all understand? Y'all keep on saying that the credit union made a
I'm
plea.
not changing the dynamic.
No, I changed the dynamic. You said that the credit union made a plea to establish a commercial bank, right?
So they were, if my memory serves me correctly, they were trying to get away for some of the bureaucracy in establishing them to be able to lend money and save money and all of that.
All right, good. Hold on, Shimo, I can ask you specifically, but I can ask the rest of the panel as well. Anyone here knows what are the requirements to actually open a commercial bank in Barbados?
No, we're not dangerous.
Alright, shoot, Jeremy, let us know.
Okay. So basically,
And they're going to get FTC.
you have to get FTC. Basically, you have to make application to the Central Bank of Barbados for the commercial banking license. You got to put up a bond. You have
And that bond is not going to the FTC?
No, Fair Trade Commission.
How much is the bond, Jeremy?
No, it's your Financial Service Commission.
No, Financial Services Commission doesn't regulate banks.
Okay.
How much is the bond, Jeremy?
I can't remember the exact amount, but
Average.
it's more than $100,000 for sure.
Okay.
So it's just
Jeremy, you saw that you're sure return was left out.
No. I am sure.
Trust me, left it out.
No, I am sure. I'm sure what I'm talking
Maybe
about.
sure he wanted to walk punches.
Right. I'm sure what I'm talking about.
Financial status. Right?
Right.
Alright, go ahead.
No, Financial Services Commission does not
Go ahead.
regulate banks.
Alright, no, go ahead.
I can say that for a no.
I don't argue that part.
So you have to make application to the Central Bank of Barbados. You have to obviously you got to do your audits. You have to ensure that you're in good economic.
But hold on, stop.
Let me speak.
No, but I got the question because when you say you speak about audits, but when you audit the bank open here,
No, you have to look and see.
But what's the relevance of this though? What's the relevance of
listen to the relevance. Listen to the relevance of this to me, right? The credit unions have been saying that they want to open a commercial bank, right? Nothing is stopping the credit unions from opening a commercial bank. No, all they have to do is to put their petty grievances aside, come together, and say, you know what, we're going to open this commercial bank, we're going to go to the Central Bank of Barbados, make application, put forward, place the money there for the bond that you have to put up, do the audits and become regulated. But you know,
but no, you want
to know what the problem is? Credit unions are regulated by the Financial Services Commission. It is a less stricter form of regulation, right? And the credit unions, through being regulated by the Financial Services Commission, are able to more or less survive under the radar. And you see all the money that they have, the requirements that are placed on banks are not currently placed on credit
So
unions.
why would then the credit union want to move to a commercial bank?
But wait.
The credit unions don't want to move to a commercial bank.
Just hold on.
Let me
just
hear
hold on.
Kumar.
What I tell you that you don't know what you're talking about because you don't have to apply to no central bank. Then you apply directly to the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance is the one who grants licenses for banks in this country. So, and I don't have to tell you off my head the legislation right here in front of me. So,
But it starts with 3 central bank.
facilitated by, but the Minister of Finance is the one who says yes or no.
Okay.
Right? So, as you would correctly mention that the institutions are governed by 2 different players. The FSC regulates the credit unions and what's not, and the central bank regulates the commercial banks. Now, I'm not totally sure if the legislation that governs credit unions kind of prohibits them from actually opening the bank right now.
Right.
Now, if they wanted to open the bank, obviously they will still have to go through the appropriate channels to be able to have that legislation changed in order to open a bank and put credit union funds into that type of institution, because it would be called too risky and could contravene their mandate. Right. So unless there's some discussion in that regard to make it totally clear as credit unions being able to enter into that type of risky venture, then you have to put the question marks there. Now, if establishing the commercial bank was coming from a more private player, right, establishing the bank for credit union purposes, then you may have the go ahead once the Minister of Finance agrees to it, but putting credit union funds directly into establishing a bank could be problematic based on the legislation that is there.
And the credit unions do not have to meet the minimum reserve requirement either.
I want to
So just before you go on some more, that's why I was asking the question then. If the credit unions, to my mind, want to move to having some of the stipulations that is placed on them taken off so that they could do some of the same business a commercial bank does,
Yeah, I'm just checking.
while remaining a
Credit union.
credit union, and that's where the bureaucracy or the red tape could be, because you say they will have to go now and set up a bank for themselves to be able to, but they may not want to take the risk of that. So they just want to say, okay, as an organization already established in this field, cut 2 red tapes off and let me just do what you want to do. Because for me, it seems like the credit union wants to make a profit. But while being a credit union, you can't make a profit. That's like opening a non-for-profit organization and not being able to make profit on anything. But they're saying now, if you cut 2 right there, I will be able to generate some of the same profit the commercial bank drink. But on top of that, they have more money in them than the
Commercial banks.
than the commercial bank, because people are closing, moving the money there. But they want to make interest.
But you do realize that when you
my question is,
credit union puts the money back in your bank.
yeah, but my question is, if the credit union banks in Barbados get some of the bureaucracy or the red tape taken off, and then no way they could charge interest and they could charge that, wouldn't that cripple the trust level that the people have for the credit unions?
That kind of goes against the mandate of a credit union.
Correct, but I'm asking, if they get the bureaucracy removed, they will now be able to charge these interest rates on loans or savings that will go against the same
But they
grade.
charge a high interest rates on loans right now.
No, I'm talking about overall in the perspective of that they want certain red tape remove it. Not that if you lend a loan, you can charge interest on the loan.
But then, if they have that, then it will be considered what we call banking business.
Exactly.
So then that essentially takes away from what a credit union is and shifts your mandate from being under the FSC
to become to central bank.
But I don't even want us to go down the road tampering with the credit unions. The credit unions
They have tampered with themselves. That's what you need to understand.
I don't agree with that. But
I don't agree.
Charlie
with
Rollins
that.
said, I can remember this same administration going cabinet before to make sure that the credit unions are limited. Therefore, the small black man would continue to face challenges with borrowing loan, especially
Because I know also that the credit union only lend up to a certain amount. So if you wanted to buy a land, Sorry, you wanted to buy a house. Let's say your house was 550,000. I think they could only land up to 450,000.
Yeah.
Right. So their threshold cut off.
That's a board level decision though.
But I don't. Well, I don't know
There's
if it's
some
a
commercial
board
banks
level.
that only land up to $600,000, and if you want to borrow more money than $600,000 for mortgage, well, there's one bank that lands up to 600. There's one that lands up to 800,000.
But is that board
Right?
level or is that a FTC central bank
No,
stipulation?
that is a board level decision. And
Well,
what happens is that if you want to borrow more than that, there are different levels of approval.
Yeah, we're
that
going
have
to bring
be
more
sought.
asset. You're going to bring more
Well,
people.
but all entities in Barbados are in business to make a profit. But I want to say something before we go any further. Y'all were speaking about the correspondent banking issue, right? Now, I want to educate you with something quickly before you
I'm all ears.
right before you let people on
I like to
listen
be
to the
wrong.
show
What's the
believe the wrong information. When Barbados had its own national bank, right? We had a correspondent banking relationship, right? I can't remember which bank in New York they used, but we had a correspondent banking relationship. Every commercial bank that operates in Barbados today has a correspondent banking relationship. Now, if you listen to the news, as I suspect you do, the Barbados Banking Association has been speaking vociferously about us possibly losing our correspondent banking relationship because of our ratings, and then when I say ratings, I'm talking about on our debt, and also with reference to anti-money laundering and
I say that's a false flag, though.
Right.
Go ahead.
You said
I
a
don't
false
trust-
flag.
I don't trust the ba- I don't trust the
Jeremy,
Barbados.
before you go any further, explain to some people that may not know what is correspondent banking.
Alright, so correspondent banking basically is this. You, as a country, you the money, you got a business, right? You got a business, security, right? Now you provide security services for Rihanna if she comes to Barbados, right? So you want to buy equipment for America, right? For your business in Barbados, and Rihanna might want to pay you money in Barbados for protecting her when she comes to Barbados, right? Now, in order for that to happen, if you got a contact, so First Caribbean, right, or for citizens, you deposit your money on that account, and you want to buy a draft, or you can use a credit card, or whatever means you decide to send your money to America. You get a draft or check, however it is, and you send that draft to your supplier in America or Iran or wherever in the world you decide you want to send the money to, right? They have to take that money and deposit on their account in their respective country, and in order for them to get the money, because they can't take Barbados currency, remember that. So they will want their funds in US currency. So the correspondent bank, which would be like the Bank of New York, I think acts as a correspondent bank, they would then the banks would have, the local commercial bank would have a foreign account with them, right? And the foreign account would have whatever amount of millions of dollars they decide to keep inside that bank, so that for every transaction that they send out, that that your money is guaranteed to get to the third party, right? And when somebody sends in money to you, the correspondent bank would credit their the commercial bank in Barbados's account with the money, so that you in Barbados can receive your funds as well, right? Now, the reason why that is impacted because some countries are blacklisted. So like countries like Iran, Russia, not Saudi Arabia, Somalia, places where we would consider terrorism hotspots. They're very cautious in relation.
We would consider.
Not we,
Oh, okay.
but that are listed as terrorism
right,
hotspots by the OECD, and for whatever reason, it could be terrorism, money laundering, whatever reason they decide to use to blacklist our country. In the case of Barbados, at one point they wanted to blacklist us for saying we were a tax haven, which is totally incorrect.
We were blacklisted.
Yeah, we were blacklisted, but we got taken off the list, right?
Okay,
But
that's
no,
the
we get put on a different list, because it's got the blacklist, the white list, also a different list, right? So, in the case of Barbados, if we did not get off the list, it would cause us some serious problems with our correspondent banking, right? Now, the problem herein lies is that it is not only Barbados that actually has a correspondent banking relationship with these banks in New York. The problem herein is that the whole Caribbean is facing the issue, right? And with the Caribbean, and do you know that when you speak about First Citizens Bank in Barbados, who's the majority shareholder in First Citizens Bank? The majority shareholder in First Citizens Bank is the government of Trinidad and Tobago, I believe. Right? So, just as how
The government of Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes, the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So, just as how you were talking about a national commercial bank in Barbados, the government of Trinidad and Tobago have the same issue because they are trying to maintain a correspondent banking relationship. Because if you don't have this correspondent banking relationship, and that is why the Prime Minister is so intent on ensuring that she achieves it. Tourism in Barbados technically would follow sky overnight, because if the hotels can't get the money and the tourists can't get the money in Barbados, so realistically there's no reason to come to Barbados. Places like Massy and Poplar and all these supermarkets in Barbados will have a serious issue in terms of bringing food into Barbados. We won't be able to import oil into Barbados. We won't be able to export our biscuits. I mean, no, we can export them, but we will not be able to receive the funds.
Because the correspondent bank.
Right. So the correspondent banking issue in the Caribbean is the single biggest threat to our survival.
It's
Even even bigger than a storm.
It's serious.
Right? But I also want to you mentioned something previously, and I want to bring this to you as well. When you criticize the banks and say that the banks are making all this money and they're foreign owned banks, right? I want you to know that there are companies in Barbados which are quote unquote Barbadian companies, which have registered themselves outside of Barbados and don't pay taxes in Barbados and make substantially more profit in Barbados than some of the same commercial banks.
Well, let's deal with them. Let's go after them. My
You
argument
can't go
is,
after this employment.
hold on, let's deal with them. If it is an issue, let's deal with them. My fundamental complaint is this. We have 5 foreign private banks in this Barbados that is walking away with billions of dollars in profits, and we are not getting any. That's a big issue.
Shimon,
We're not getting any.
Hold on, Shimon. Kimar, is it possible that you'll be able to find out how much money in tax revenue the 5 commercial banks
What
that
tax
we are
indirect?
on the $1 billion in profits that they made?
Listen,
you can find out how much tax revenue they
listen,
actually paid in Barbados.
I'm not looking
Because
at
the Barbadian public needs to know.
Hold on.
But
the
you
contribution
are-
in banks as well.
You may be arguing 2 different things. He's not arguing profit. He's arguing money staying in. You're
Listen,
arguing profit.
I'm looking at money
But
staying
taxes
in.
is money staying
Hold-
in.
Listen to me.
I don't
Taxes
think it's
is
enough.
chicken feed.
I don't think it's enough.
But he knows
because
this.
The last Minister of Finance actually put a tax on bank assets.
Yeah.
So
2% tax, which was unfair.
What?
why?
It's unfair to get 10%. The whatever percent they hit me up with.
Right?
It was an unfair tax.
Justify the statement, Jeremy.
I can justify the statement. When you put look, the last Minister of Finance, and I say this very openly, he was not innovative or creative.
Man,
with
don't
figures.
go on the semantics. Don't go on the
No.
semantics. I want you to justify why you made the statement. I don't want to hear about Chris, Farnell, Mia. What you say,
The banks were already overtaxed, and putting on that 2% on the assets alone actually almost crippled some institutions. That's the honest truth.
You can provide evidence of that.
I would have to bring. The next show, I will bring you statistics.
But you can't argue that. Then you shut that
I
down.
don't mind presenting. I just want.
But you still have to be able to justify certain things like that.
Yeah.
No. If you're looking to put a tax on a bank, I believe you have done the studies. I believe you have sat and you considered if you put that. If I put this tax on you, you have to be able to afford to pay, right? So, if it is that I am the Minister of Finance, and if you are the hilt of taxes, why would they come and put another tax on you? You understand?
So yes, you know that.
So they put the NSRL on the public of Barbados.
And SRL was arguably one of the best taxes that came into the Barbadian
No,
section.
according to
But
20,000
NSR
people that marched against it.
wasn't from another country that was.
So because the 20,000 people that
No,
marched
no,
against
no,
it,
no,
it means that they
NSR
marched
wasn't
with
born with it.
right
The
now.
only issue,
But Kimar,
issue,
I think we had a discussion. I can't remember if we on one of the shows, but it was mentioned that NSRL was mainly for the businesses to pay. But what they did was that they passed it on to the consumers.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Which is still on the consumers to this day.
I just want
Never came
I just want y'all to be clear, right?
Yes.
That the Minister of Small Business in this country stood up next to a gentleman, publicly, and this gentleman, we call him a merchant, and he said, high prices in the supermarket are not necessarily because of NSRL, but well, a couple months ago, people campaign and alarm all over the place saying NSRL is because of high prices in the supermarket.
But it is though.
How?
It was.
Let's keep on. Wait,
It gone now. The prices any cheaper?
No, people still went up. I know that.
But that's not the fault
But people
of
went up.
policy of government, because I is the import. That's my business. And when I bring in anything, I pay VAT. Before I pay VAT, I pay 2% foreign exchange rate. I pay
And that
I pay the duty. It could be 20% or up. I pay the VAT 7.5, and then
It's 17.5.
and then the NSRL was included in that.
Now,
For me, at any business, at the end of the day, you can then put on your profit. But remember, you can put on your profit after that total price. So what can happen is that the consumer can pay obviously the NSRL. When the NSRL came off, I mean, I don't have to charge it because I'm not being charged NSRL. So all my customers pay right now is the duty, the VAT, and then what I put on as a profit.
But there are loopholes in the system where you can avoid paying VAT. And
how?
Because certain items are VAT. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, let's
Go ahead.
the fact that this government write off billions of dollars in VAT, but it's enough reason
Was
to
it billions?
That's not a fair point. Come on.
Okay, they write, however figure you want to call it, the fact that they write off VAT, right, shows you that there are loopholes you go to avoid. Now, and when you collect VAT on behalf of the government, you have possibly like a 30-day window what's not that money can circulate within your business before it goes off to government. You have businesses in this country that has not paid VAT since inception back in 1997. So with NSRL you had to pay up front. So there was no leeway for you to keep the money and then pay later or not pay later. So my opinion is that if the government was really looking to revamp the tax system, that there should be, we say, less VAT and more NSR, because it was more equitable and there was not enough
Or
NSR money gone.
Or take out the VAT and just pay NSRL.
You can't take out
they can't remove it
Actually, back on the up.
but you can't remove it completely. Yes, he's correct.
dangerous man.
VAT.
No, I am very straightforward. If you're looking at, there's a side point. If you're looking at survival in Barbados and understanding the government expenditure, the time will come where the VAT rate in Barbados will have to go up.
Who that
Wait. Kimar, is that a part of the IMF program? Is that one of the things listed? Because I heard this also before.
A part of the IMF program, it said authorities stand ready to implement any additional measures where revenues fall short.
But they not speak to the VAT, so we can't go there.
But one of the stipulations in the report said the possible raising of VAT is an option. So the fact that it's an option means that the government can consider it. And due to the fact that the government just decreased corporation tax,
Good idea, by the way.
we didn't argue that. But the fact that they reduced most direct taxation and increased indirect taxation means that they're working with things like VAT and they just reduce the zero rating and the things that you could claim on it. They reduce all of these windows, right? So in my opinion, if they raise VAT, I would not be surprised, because next year VAT is going up on tourism.
Yeah, but I don't listen. If you raise VAT in this country, already going into the supermarket is a killer. You again, don't forget, VAT is mostly passed on to the consumers.
But hold on, but
I think it's going to go up.
Hold on.
What I'm just saying to you is, when you raise these things, we don't want to scare Barbadians into believing that these things could be real. But you are going to put Barbadians in a serious predicament that you have already raised. No, the NSRL did a serious injustice to Barbados.
Yes,
One,
it did.
the NSRL money could not have been accounted for in a lot of ways, but apart from that, the people of businesses, I knew businesses in this country that put on NSRL 3 times. I can tell you why. When NSR first was announced, and a pack of biscuit was 25 cents, it moved to 70. It moved to like let's say 75 cents. It moved to 85 cents. Hold on. When it was closer to the NSR, because don't forget NSR was put back by a month, I think. It raised again. It was raised by that time when the time was supposed to go on. So let's say it went to 95 cents. But you see when the NSR went on, it went to $1.10. And now that the NSRL is off, nobody, in my opinion, have police to bring back down their cost.
But you want before you
I'm just trying to divide my point here. Nobody police the points, police to get back down the prices, even though these are not paying the high importation fee with the NSR added on to it no more, which I would call direct tax because you had to pay upfront. But at the end of the day, but here's what I'm just saying. The people was made to suffer at the hand of NSRL. This administration yet to take off that to regulate.
The NSRL was removed.
No, to regulate that these people bring back down the cost of goods. Because I feel in my mind that they would have already sold out all the goods that was in stock for that period. So I'm just saying, it's a detriment to go and say you can raise tax. We'll be serious on people.
When Brother was here, I'm sure she mentioned about
The last figure?
a lot of exemptions that was available.
Oh, please, man. Nobody can't buy any.
Hold on. A lot of exemptions that were available.
There were 400 items in that exemption list.
On the NSRL. And I know biscuits had to be on that. Right?
Biscuits were on, but here's what I'm saying.
So, but
were they exempted? They were still, some of those bastards are good, especially the familiar types that we use. Were still hit before NSRL.
But that was
and it never came back on price.
That was being opportunistic on behalf of the private
I
sector.
get
You remember about me?
Before you answer,
When last anyone in here went and buy lunch at me?
2 nights ago.
How much you pay?
I will not call the name of the
How
establishment.
much you pay?
Man, come on,
$3
Jeremy.
and
Nah.
You don't get a dream, man? Come on, China.
$5 for
Jeremy,
Bring me that place.
Jeremy,
That.
that's for China, Jeremy.
No, I said
That can tell me for Farmer's Choice or nothing so. Or nothing so.
It was an England should be for $3.85 in the center.
I went
That's for China.
in the supermarket paying $5.15 for lunch.
That's alright. But I
Tuna is $2 and change.
Based on what he said. Okay, he had just mentioned that
Because the NSR.
and that's all went on. It went off, and nobody in terms of monitor and see if they come off at the supermarket or whatever. Does the FTC supposed to respond with doing such, or is there another organization, or do we have
The
organizations
FTC may not want to
checks
take
these kind of
incident for
things?
that.
Alright, let me
That's FTC?
hold on, no, I'm not FTC.
No, I
I'm-
talk about that's FTC job to monitor
Alright,
price
hold on.
and make sure consumers are treated fair.
let me respond to that right now. What you have now ventured into is price gouging by the private sector.
Correct.
And I want y'all to remember this. The present government of Barbados removed the NSRL because it was a hated
But
tax.
we get that fact, but they did regulate. Did anybody go and check and make sure the price of the tuna come back down to a affordable price because the NSR was not. So here's what: if you put on 20% on your corned beef during NSRL, it should come back off.
All right, hold on. Let me respond to that. Let me respond to that. The argument, and this is where the problem comes, right? The argument that a business will bring, and you have to understand that.
Yeah, stop, Jeremy.
Let me respond.
No, but you're not answering the question. The question was, is if the FTC is the monitoring body for such things, or if there's a body at all that monitors. Answer that question.
Who stopped these people from rising and
Answer that question first.
I think there are actually inspectors in the Ministry of Commerce who actually are supposed to go in the supermarkets.
A poor job.
So therefore, they're not going to do
No, I'm not saying that. Hold on, hear me for a sec. Listen to me. Listen to me. An inspector could come and see, say you're selling this phone, all right? And you're selling phone for $5, and you were previously selling it for $4. And the inspector could say, well, realistically, you were selling it for $4, and the NSRL or whatever tax went on, and we took off the tax, so now you should be selling it for $4 again, right? The private sector entity can say, whilst I can agree with you on that point, you have to recognize that I got something called overheads. And my overheads
Nah,
have gone.
no, Jeremy, you can't talk about overheads.
No, I am not
you were
defending- I am not
taxed. You were
defending
taxed.
merchants,
Listen.
but I am saying to you the excuse that they will bring.
No,
that is
that
the challenge that you
flawed.
have.
You can't tell me that you put on 25%
You
because of
cannot tell
tax.
man
The tax
how
came out, but you
the
keep it in price
prices
there.
are.
I understand, but
Market
you
system.
understand what he's saying.
I understand what you're saying.
Right, he's saying that you,
That's a-
as a person owning a business, would use.
Listen, let me show you from a
And if you do that,
hold
you
on.
have a chance.
Let me show you from a person.
Alright.
Listen, let me show you from a person that own retail businesses. When I went into the business and I had my ice cream parlor, ice cream went up on me. Now, if you're selling an ice cream at $7, you can tell yourself, alright, if the bucket gone up on you, then you try to hold it. You hold it as much as possible. Obviously, with the increase, you're gonna want to be able to increase for the customers.
Yeah.
You understand? But there's only a certain amount of increase you could do for customers, because if not, you could be running them, because we ain't got a monopoly business, but we're so. But when the ice cream came back down, I was able to drop my price back down, because I was telling the people, well, good, I ain't getting taxed on this no more. Out of fairness of my customers and for keeping my repeat customers, if my ice cream went to $8, it went back down to $7.
Right, so basically what Jeremy is basically saying is that the private sector basically is trying to keep what will be a profit, a higher profit, because I'm using the excuse that my overheads went up.
But we understand, but
that
it's flawed.
profit.
That's why you went. Y'all never did the math on
But
the
it's easy to
classic.
show that in books.
Listen, y'all never did
You
the
can read up so much things.
Kimar, hold on, not at you, but you recognize that the main problem we got with the private sector in Barbados is something called not even horizontal but vertical integration, where there are private sector entities in Barbados that they own, like say a supermarket. They also own through another affiliate company, the distributors. And the relationship goes so far that even the people that they buy from outside of Barbados are owned by them.
Yes.
And when they talk about bringing things from Miami and this place, they also own that place as well.
Yes.
Right? So the profit level that they're making is passed on piece by piece by piece by piece. So we in Barbados are being made more or less the guinea pigs and scapegoats.
No, we want the guinea
robbed.
because even if you.
But we ain't got choice. But
Listen, we got choices.
We got choice.
We got choice. Don't ever tell me
What's
about
the
choice.
choice?
Listen.
I remember there was a supermarket I went into the other day. I remember they were talking about this thing as it relates to how much you could swipe for. I remember, I think it was Carabao one had come out and said that it was wrong for you to let customers
You got you swipe any amount.
swipe for any amount, right?
Correct.
And I went to the supermarket the other day, and I went in to buy more items than, like I said, I went in to buy 5 items. But the supermarket only had 2 items. So I got the cash, I gained a swipe.
And they tell you can't swipe.
The woman tell me, I can't swipe for no less than 10. I said, sweetheart, if when I had the items I wanted to buy, it would have been 50. But I don't see why I should be deprived of my 2 items for a thing. And she tell me, well, that's the problem. I said, call the supervisor. And the supervisor tell me I can't. So I said, listen to me, keep your damn items. And I shout so hard, if you can't swipe, keep your items, because I wanted to make a statement. But if we don't make statements like those,
absolutely.
you know, if the plastic bag issue, but if I don't believe in the plastic bag issue, I'm not going to buy the bag. Because that was $100 million business, you know.
Hold on.
Yes.
You know,
Because you're already paying for the bags already in your
item. But no, if you add up, like, if you said Marcy and them man, if they got through like 300,000 bags in a year, do it by 25 cents now.
It's only 10 cents.
So you see the reason.
No, some people are 10 cents.
So you see the reason now why a nation needs to have entities that it owns.
They get charged for every damn thing they got now.
Because there are those of us who are not in the position to reach that deep into our pockets, and we do need assistance.
But Shimon,
the private sector is not going to take their profits and build your house, build the roads, fix the airport. Them things ain't happening. We have to be able to do that on our own.
I believe in the national. We will have less interest. we would have
We would.
less
He knows
interest.
that too.
I think so.
It's
Even
true.
though, so we can't be protecting all the commercial banks and making the
We
millions.
should not be
So,
protecting them.
Jermaine, so
Yeah.
it back down to the bank.
Okay.
Now, the
We got
question
5
is
minutes
now,
before we wrap up.
the
guys.
reason why a business will not want to accept your credit card to be swiped
Mm-hmm.
for anything under $10
Mm-hmm.
isn't it because they're looking at there's a fee
There's a
charged
fee.
to them for explain the fee because
Oh,
there's a reason why.
I can explain that perfectly.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's only 40 cents.
No, you're you don't understand it.
Like, I got machines.
No, hold on.
All right, go ahead.
Hold on.
I want
Keep
sewing.
on,
hold on.
I want machines. So I
Hold
want
on.
sewing now.
Hold
That
on.
is it. Go ahead.
Commercial banks charge a rate for
It's only commercial bank that got it.
swiping credit cards,
Uh-huh.
and they charge a separate rate for swiping debit
50.
cards.
What's
46,
your rate?
right?
What's your rate?
So
One is 40 cents, one is 60
Right.
cents.
no, Kimari.
How much?
If you have a business and you have the facilities to allow customers to swipe credit cards, you have to negotiate a percentage on your actual sale total on a daily basis that is actually swiped with the commercial bank. So like if you negotiated for say 5%, if like any day you swipe $1,000, you owe the bank. The bank will, when they upload the monies to your account, they will minus their $50 because that's a 5% rate.
Right.
That's for credit cards. So if reference to credit cards, you can actually swipe any amount for a credit card because no matter how it goes, you're paying on a percentage basis.
Correct.
So any institution that's saying like they're not accepting less than $10 for a credit
I think
card,
that's beer now.
they're only hurting
I ain't
themselves.
Correct.
listen, let me
Right?
correct you
Hold
on that.
on.
Hold on, I don't want you to run. I don't want you to run.
I used to work in
But I
the
run it. I can't for you to work. Let me take. When my cards are swiped,
Mhm.
it is 40. It is I think up to 40 cents on the debit and 60 cents on the credit. That on that
Every
transactional
swipe,
fee,
every
every
swipe,
swipe, every
is not-
transactional fee.
Okay.
Now there's some point where, depending on which, if you tell the bank, well, I gonna make, let's say $300,000 a year out of this. If you fall short,
You are
you are gonna pay the bank, let's say $500 for yearly fee. But there's still if you're using a wireless one, they charge you a monthly fee of $100 to use the wireless, which that way you don't see a lot of people with wireless.
But that's
But the
separate.
one that is plug in, that use the Ethernet cables, you don't get no monthly fees on them. So you agree with the bank on how much money you can bring in to be able to cover your costs. But those charges that are charged on the transactional fees are fixed.
Hold on.
They're not changed.
Hold on, Kimar. Hold on.
Even-
with reference to the wireless machines, right? You have to understand that is a cost to the bank to get that machine to you, right? So that machine ain't free. So you
But
have to
it's,
pay.
what you mean cost? They're not cost. The only thing that you pay for in that machine is the fact that you're using a SIM card and it is a more portable.
Kimar, be fair.
But you don't pay- you don't
Kimar,
pay
be
for the
fair.
one that plug
Some
into
of
the
those
Netflix.
wireless machines, you could take that wireless machine
And throw it anywhere
and you
wireless.
bring it in here
Right.
and swipe right
So you're
now.
paying- that way
so
you're
you got to
paying
pay
the
back for that service.
accessibility.
With reference to
Okay.
the 40 cent or the 60 cent fee,
Transactional fee.
transactional fee that you said that the banks are charging you per transaction, that fee doesn't actually go to the bank. That goes to an entity called CARIS, the CARIS network. That is completely distinct to
My
commercial
cable
banks.
investor, it comes from
So,
the bank on the bank
The
behalf.
commercial banks, CARIS network facilitates the service on behalf of the commercial banks. But the commercial banks does not actually get that 40 or 60 cents fee. It does not. They do not. So do not spread misinformation.
But I ain't saying that they get, but again, I didn't went at cars and do my business. I went in a commercial bank and do my business. You understand? If you don't tell me, well, just know that the transactional fees are passed on the car. You don't tell me so? The bank is sitting up with me negotiating my transactional fees. So I don't care if I got my mother. The point is, I went into that bank and deal with that bank on behalf of you. You weren't telling me who it's going to. I really didn't care. But that was going to. All I want is when the other day come and they close off my machine. I look at my bank account in a couple of hours.
Hold,
and I see my
hold,
money.
hold on. Any of y'all in here ever send money outside of Barbados?
Yes.
Good. You remember we were speaking about the correspondent banking issue, right? Correspondent banking is not free. So when you go into a bank and the bank charges you money as a transaction fee, part of that money, believe it or not, gonna be the
I ain't
correspondent bank
accepting
too.
the excuses when it comes to the bank.
Oh,
But
God.
you
What is
were
it
saying,
you?
man, say, "Well, what's that going on?"
I ain't accepting the excuses
But
when
we-
it comes to
we-
the bank.
but we
You
ain't-
need to have a bank.
But we're naive to think that the bank don't share the money.
understand
They
what I'm
share the
saying?
money. If you ever have 10 investors, profit got to be shared 10 ways. So we're not negating that. We're just saying, At least one is investors should be Barbadians.
I want to say something before time gets away
Yeah.
from us.
Hey, why?
At the end of the day, my concern is ownership
Yeah.
and control for the nation. Okay? If we do not, the ICBL was established for what purpose, and now it is in private hands.
Yeah.
Okay, these jewels of ours that end up in private hands hits us at the pocket because taxes has to be imposed more.
Yeah.
In order to get money to do things.
You know, Barbados made more money out to the bank than maybe you want it, right?
That's you saying so.
That's the statistics.
Watch me. Listen to me. I am not looking at the fact that we're going to make $10 billion every day right now. I am looking at the fact that we can make $10 million for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? That's what I'm looking at.
The
Longevity.
Prime Minister to know the country more. I had to know that. Barbados, the thing is that people don't understand. People know that Barbadians are savers. You understand?
Yes.
And when that money is being here, being able to stay within your country or being able to stay within your people, that's a norm. Because when you're taking your money out and you taking my money and chopping it up in pieces to let how you want to lend and say what you want to say, because you need something, and that's where when Alan Stanford has started that bank in Grenada, is it Antigua?
That was a fraud bank.
But regardless,
right now.
that was a big thing for the Antiguans
That was
because
a Ponzi scheme.
but regardless of what it was, we know it's a politics, it was all in the news, but you saw how much Antiguans had their money within that bank.
This is how you have to look at it. I lived in the States for 17
They even
years.
came
Right?
without a bank,
I lived in
boy.
the States for 7 years. A lot of things I gathered while living over there. For example, the Islamic community and the Jewish community.
Right,
That's
no
religious, right?
Yeah.
That's religious. Yes, but their money circulates within their community more than 10, 15 times before it leaves. So I'm saying, our money here in this Barbados, our money needs to circulate in this society numerous times before it goes. It does not happen. It goes and it leaves.
Shamoy wants a question.
So it can't do nothing.
I want my final question to you on the show tonight, right?
Yes, sir.
We know anything you find.
No, this is my final. There are thousands of houses in Barbados which were built between 1994 and 2008. And even though from 2008 to 2018, there were thousands more houses which were also built in Barbados. Because I don't believe this whole concept in the last decade. Right? Right?
I believe in that like hell.
No, I don't believe in that. Right? That's a marketing theme. Right? Now, the reality is this, right? Where did the banks that lent the people the money for these mortgages get that money from?
Where did the banks get it from?
Yeah.
Something called a promissory note.
The banks got the money from money that you put for the account, and the money put, and Kimar put, and they put.
Yeah.
The banks took that money and they lent it to other Barbadians
Yeah, we all know
said, I want Barbados.
And they turn around making profits off that and put it in their own pocket.
And give you a little percentage interest.
They give you the money as a loan, right? And let me I want to explain to you. They give you the money as a loan.
Which is your own money.
Yes, it's your own money.
So
but it is your money and everybody in here money, right?
Correct.
The charge interest on it. You took that money. You took that money you bought and services from laborers and also people in Barbados. You went to Carters, you went to Williams, you went to all sorts of people and you bought the equipment and the materials needed to build your property. Williams and those people took that money and they invested it in something else in Barbados.
Right.
And that person took the money and invested it in something else. The reality situation is this, right? If the banks lent out $10 billion in cash, the money circulated, and Kimar here, as an economist, will tell what's called the domino effect.
But the profits
Right?
are
And
not going to us. The profits are going into 5 pockets. That is my concern.
So the initial profit, but the money has been spreading continuously.
Because we only got 10% budget on the system to go.
Let Kimar get
just let me give 5. Let Kimar give the 5 reasons why a national bank would be ideal in Barbados. Go ahead, Kimar.
Right. Before we start off quickly, if we look at, I can say Germany. Right? What underpins the German society? What makes it so strong? Is small institutions, small banking institutions, or what we would call in this side were our credit unions, community banks, non-profit banks. So the fact that you're a bank does not mean you have to be in it for profit. Now, the idea of it could be development, social goals, support of government policies, support of those type of ideas.
And money
And not necessarily car loans and mortgages and what's not, that type of thing. So it is possible to achieve what we want to achieve through a national bank. But one good reason is we get banking services are obviously a lower cost, because as I did mention, is not essentially profit driven, but more development driven, because they offer the same services really and truly, but it's just who sets the agenda. So it puts money into growing our local economy. Right now we are in need of that, and desperately. And the fact that banks have not linked government, I say like our government money in the world, which you could justify their position, not saying that is a terrible thing they did, because they need to protect the investment.
So you call the minimum reserve requirement? As a loan?
But
we got a couple percentage battery.
Right. Keep decision making local. That is the idea. Canada and Trinidad should not be setting our banking policies. Period.
That's right.
Period.
They don't. Yes, they do. We don't own a bank.
Go ahead,
Kimber.
Right. Bank institutions that share a commitment to your community.
Charities, different stuff like that.
Charities, development. Like right now we have a renewable industry that's coming on stream. We want to see how the banks can play a role in that aspect as well.
Banks land renewable energy loans right now.
Agricultural development, we want to see how they're going to be interested in that as well.
That's government's mandate.
Do you know what I mean? Keep on break.
Sorry. I got different things.
Right, and support productive investment and not necessarily the gambling of people's money.
Yeah.
Right, so just to cap off though, I think there's great room for investment in a banking institution on government's behalf. The citizens of Barbados
On the people's behalf.
would welcome a
I
national
will
bank.
welcome one for sure.
I will not.
I will. I'm sure the four of us cross share can, and then you have not on the side. He would
He's
obviously.
an objective.
Yes, he would support. He would definitely support anything that's foreign before Beijing.
Like his shoes. Like,
Oh Lord.
Even in taste of women and everything.
What?
That's another story. That's another story.
That's low boy Kimber.
no interest rate.
That's another chat room blow.
But nevertheless, we support local. We support
Buy local.
Barbados, and we believe that Barbadian money should be for the development of Barbadians in its totality, and we support the call for a national bank in Barbados, hands down.
Here.
Samar, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome, gentlemen.
We must have you back. You know, we didn't give you much time to talk. I mean, Jeremy did it.
He didn't give me much of that.
But we would love to have you back again. As we talk on banking and finance today, Barbadians, we just encourage you to go on Sunday. The money get out in the sun. We're highly me and go walk for the breast cancer. Support the ladies that have been affected by breast cancer. I don't know if men is affected, but
Yes, men also. I just want to highlight that the men's group that Rich meeting at the family planning. We actually speaking about cancer in men, and breast cancer is included.
Okay, nice.
And that's on Saturday. Let me just get the correct time and everything for you.
But when he's getting the time, please go to more support. You don't have to, if you don't have a pink shirt, get out there. Sheraton and Cherish in town is selling the shirts and the hats. So get out there, support, walk. My first 5K walk, so I want to see how that goes.
Seriously?
Yeah, I have nothing to walk off.
Right, the time is the discussion is cancer and men. A doctor will be presenting, and it's on Saturday, October 12th, which is next week Saturday, from 6 to 8. The conference room with the Barbados Family Planning, and it is being put together by the Men's Empowerment Network Support. Men's.
All right, and I want you to go and support our boy Simon Allen and his small business. I don't like to use that small business, but his business in the cheap side. Shop Smart. His give me another deli. Go there, support him. He's one of the hosts of the show, and the tasting the food, it was really lovely. So go and support. Buy local, keep the money local.
You got sauce?
Sauce was today actually.
Yeah, and also on his behalf, I apologize for him not being here. He's currently playing as his character as Rum in the comedy show being held at Sherbrooke
Cool,
Center.
cool, he's cool.
Sorry, cool.
He black. Just if you don't remember, say he's black. Cool. The other one is.
So we actually go and support segment tonight at the comedy show.
Yeah, well, he's already a comedy show. So yeah, so we want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thanks some more for coming such short notice.
You're welcome.
Talking with us on banking and finance. We do see the importance of it in our country, and we hope it's something that our leaders can definitely take it further and bring us a national bank again, that we something that we can call our own.
And that the nation rally behind.
And the nation rally behind it. We want to thank all the viewers from St. Henry, Farmer Center.
We got
Forever,
Forever Young J Taylor.
Forever Young JT, all people from all the way to
That's
UK.
the Blue.
We have the Vernon de Peas and some others that join us. We have some people that join us, Krista Howell and all of those persons for
African Heritage
Swazo
Foundation.
Boo for keeping us as well, and my friend Vanessa from her group with the Ross University. So we have some really good people just joining. Daniela Spark, I think she's in the UK. So we have some people checking us out.
Yeah.
Share, like the page. See you again on Wednesday as we bring more topic discussion. And tell us again what you would like to hear us talk about, what you would like us to talk on as well. We open arms to everything. But thank you for staying with us. A gentleman made a comment that we only had 20 views at any given time. I think that's a silly statement. He's not watch our shows. We are growing in the numbers of views. And we are growing in the number of people that are trying to follow us. The shows are going up in the 1800, but our reach is almost in the 5,000, 35,000 people reaches that we're reaching. So the show is actually reaching people. 35. We did 50,000 views collectively in all of the reaches in our short space of time, and we haven't been going a month fully yet. We had over 50,000 views. I think you saw it when it came up next to me. So that's the reach. Sorry, that we've reached people about 50,000.
Also, special thanks to Coraline for helping us in planning this.
Yeah, Coraline. Yes, Coraline. Yes. So we want to thank everybody. Go tomorrow, walk, support young entrepreneurship, support local. Just have a blessed and wonderful day. Please go to church tomorrow. Pray for Jermaine.
Have a good night, everybody.